Brize Norton, Britain's largest military airbase. 8,000 men and women serve and live in a thriving community the size of a small town. It operates 24 hours a day with 7 flying squadrons, 2 parachute units,
Heart rate's going now.
a world-class aeromedical evacuation unit,
This is our #1 priority, get this guy home.
and an airport that dispatches and receives thousands of troops back home from war zones.
I'm so excited, I want to cry.
The most seasoned professionals rub shoulders with the newest recruits.
Train hard, fight easy.
Done correctly, it's a work of art.
But it's more than just a military base. Supporting operations in Afghanistan, hosting traditional historic celebrations, to the saddest of all occasions.
Everything stops for the repatriation to take effect.
Inside RAF Brize Norton. In this episode, 216 Squadron lead a critical refuelling operation to defend national security. Brize Norton's finest take part in the world's biggest military air show. And the Falcons parachute team drop in on a famous holiday resort. RAF Brize Norton is Britain's biggest military airbase. Located in a rural part of West Oxfordshire, Brize Norton is the RAF's major base in the UK. Thanks to the multiple squadrons located on the base, it's the gateway for all British airborne military deployment, here and overseas. But as well as flying troops and supplies all around the world, RAF Brize Norton also plays a key role at home. 216 Squadron are getting ready to take part in an important refuelling mission. This is the home of the TriStar, a former commercial jet from the 70s that's been adapted for military use. Tonight, it's the long-awaited opening ceremony for the 2012 Olympic Games. An air exclusion zone is in force around London to counter the threat of a terrorist attack. Typhoon fighter jets are patrolling the skies, and 216 Squadron are acting as an airborne petrol station for these fighters.
It's going to go into my logbook, and it's certainly one of those key times when someone will ask you, where were you at the opening stage of the Olympics? And I think this is a pretty unique opportunity to go and have something just that little bit different from being at the actual show itself.
Are we not as late as normal should be? Alright, temporary.
For pilots like Phil, working on this kind of mission is far more rewarding than flying commercial jets.
I think the RAF has been a long-standing passion from when I was a child. I really like the dynamic nature of the flying, so it's not just flying an aircraft, it's utilising it for a purpose. It makes all the difference.
There's a huge petrol tank on board with over 100 tonnes of fuel, enough to fly a standard passenger aircraft around the world. The crew fly off to a confidential location on the east coast of England to begin their long 14-hour shift. The task has only just begun when Phil discovers that his cockpit has been infiltrated.
If anyone could swap that fly.
Why not? That fly is annoying.
Yeah. Op Olympic fly.
I'm going to get it. Hang on, I'm trying to get it for Dave. The Op Potato Friday.
The crew soon reach their rendezvous point, and even though it's a beautiful evening, conditions aren't ideal for refuelling.
The sun is very low in the sky in the Western Hemisphere, and it makes it a little bit tricky for the chaps who are on the hose, air-to-air refuelling, to maintain formation effectively if the sun is glaring in the eyes.
But this complication's nothing compared to the far more challenging airspace which Phil normally works in.
Going across the border from Pakistan into Afghani airspace, you have fast jets moving around in multiple layers, and once these guys manage to find us, and we get ourselves into formation and we're going around and taking them to where they need to be, it's a work of art.
They're going to join on the left-hand side, so I'm the captain on the left-hand side here, and I'd expect them to come right up next to the window to me here, because obviously you could pretty much touch them. They'll sit in really tight formation, and then once they're all stable, happy, ready to do their refuelling, we'll push them down to the back of the jet.
At the rear of the TriStar, the Typhoon pilot must use all of his skill and concentration to match the speed of the tanker and keep within a distance of just 30 feet.
Quick contact 26. I think it's juggling 3.6 a minute. Oh, it's closing up, approaching the basket. Contact. Pushing in. Green on.
The TriStar refuels fighter aircraft through hoses on its rear fuselage, transferring fuel at speeds of up to 2,000 kilograms per minute. It's a routine operation, but still one where there's no room for error.
Having people in close formation whilst attempting to plug into a 70-foot hose down the back of your jet is always going to cause a degree of nervousness. There's an awful lot of metal flying in such close proximity. If everything goes tickety-boo, it's just either accepted or it's your lucky day. There are things that go wrong. Luckily, we're trained quite well to mitigate those and to deal with them when they occur.
Despite the difficulties, huge quantities of fuel can be supplied to fighter jets in Afghanistan.
We can do round about 55 tonnes, I think, on a good day. And it'll all depend on how far you need to go and what you need to do.
Within minutes, the Typhoons guarding the Olympic Stadium are filled with fuel.
That's nice. Disconnect, 26. Let's disconnect.
We're on manning the fan for 1 mile. 26, rated.
What they didn't tell us is that we've loaded the belly with Ribena.
With the mid-air pit stop complete, it's just 2 minutes back to the Olympic airspace, where the fast jets can continue protecting the skies.
Well, what a good start. These guys are awesome, aren't they? So he's not only made it up tactical, he's now solving his jet problem, working through a set of drills, and he managed to authenticate. This is the most annoying thing. All 6 of us, we couldn't get a fucking authentication out.
Yeah.
Phil and his crew are now 12 hours into their mission, and the evening's starting to close in.
Looks nice down there, doesn't it? It's beautiful, isn't it? It's glassy calm as well. You can see it. It's stunning. Absolutely stunning day.
Just sneaking right as well.
With several more hours still to go, the darkening skies add another dimension to their task.
As the night gets on, we're now at coming around to midnight, and there's a captain and coast in the right seat. We just tend to keep an eye on each other and start monitoring a little bit more closely what happens, especially when we've got aircraft manoeuvring around us. Remembering that the chaps who are in the fast jets are probably suffering with a similar kind of symptoms, that your body wants to be asleep. Your circadian rhythms are down at the lowest ebb. So for us, we can drink tea and converse amongst us. For those guys, we can speak to them a little bit more on the radios, just G them along and just make sure that they're doing what they need to do.
The downside of being an airborne petrol station is that the short bursts of activity are punctuated by long hours of waiting.
We have an ebb and flow. We have different levels of arousal, basically. And I think that's where the knack of captaincy and becoming an experienced aviator is knowing or predicting when those peak areas are, so you can prepare for it and just take time out. So there are slack times where we'll do that. It feels like we're doing nothing apart from going around in circles.
But Phil's crew have developed some creative uses for the back of the aircraft to keep them entertained.
We had a 10-pin bowling alley rigged up down the back with skittles, and the ground crew were very good. So we started using water bottles and throwing a water bottle down the rollers. I'm 2 for 2, by the way, 2 strikes, undefeated at the moment. And I think if you just sat there in your seat and did nothing, you would just shut down, and you would miss that. You wouldn't be able to keep yourself occupied. And I think that's why we do it, because we're mischievous people.
With the Olympic opening ceremony in London completed, Phil and his crew can finally touch down back at Brize Norton. Another successful mission accomplished.
There's something addictive about it, really addictive. It's one of those purest flying things. As soon as you set the seat, you switch the engines on, and it's back to the fundamentals of aviation.
As well as the military's main hub for sending troops and supplies out to the front lines, Brize Norton is also the base of the RAF's elite, the Falcons Parachute Display Team, who like nothing more than jumping out of an aircraft trailing coloured smoke.
Doing a parachute jump is the most exhilarating, exciting feeling I can ever imagine. But to be able to jump with a very, very close-knit team, week in, week out, is just an incredible job, and we're very, very lucky.
The Falcons serve a 3-year duty whose primary role is to promote the prowess of the RAF.
We're all about precision, accuracy, professionalism.
On the ground, they get to greet their fans and maybe even inspire future new recruits from the crowds.
So we interact with the public, we engage with them on a regular basis, so we're quite a valuable asset to the Air Force. Secondly to that, we're a training vehicle to produce military free-fall instructors who then, when they leave the team, go on and do specialist roles throughout the airborne forces.
Many of the Falcons will go on to train elite airborne forces, swapping flashy displays for landing in war zones. But for now, it's all about playing to the crowd.
Being one of the display teams that represents the RAF definitely has its moments. There's some really cool elements to it. It's nice, it's good for the ego.
Right guys, did we all enjoy that jump?
Yeah!
But it's also a lot of pressure as well.
With the constant training and the relentless display schedule, there's not much time left for home life.
It's a difficult 3 years for the guys. You know, we're travelling around the country, we're away from families, we're just like any other human beings. We have problems, we have issues. We tend to find that we become a family ourselves when we're away, and we have to talk about stuff, so we just do it together. We love what we do, but it does take its toll, and we really appreciate the support that we get.
With austerity measures in place all across the military, the Falcons need to be creative in making as many jumps as possible to train to the highest standard. Today, to save money, the display team will be practicing in a wind tunnel.
Due to lack of aircraft, we obviously can't do a lot of free-fall training, so we go to the tunnel, which is like a simulator. So we can do quite a lot of skill, or in-air skills that we need to be an instructor, with the exception of jumping out of the plane, so the lads will get quite a lot from it today.
Before the team hit the tunnel, they run through their moves in a decidedly less breezy classroom.
This is a creeper. Obviously body shape with wheels on the bottom. Through in the other room there we've got a wooden floor. It allows us to simulate the skydive, to rehearse it, so that we're making the most of the time in the tunnel. We're not wasting any of the time that we're paying for flying.
And having had a good spin, it's time to feel the breeze.
You're going to see some carnage now.
The Falcons can't all fit in the tunnel together, but these boys never stop practicing their moves. Given the unpredictable nature of the British weather, the wind tunnel also provides a valuable year-round training opportunity.
Just then we get about 90 seconds per guy sort of go in the wind tunnel. It's about 2 skydives. So we think now we might get 9 or 10 goes at that, which would equate to about 20 skydives. So the aircraft costs of getting that up and down, the man hours of waiting for it to come to altitude and stuff. So apart from actually jumping out of a plane, that's probably as close as you're going to get to the real thing. So yeah, the lads are get some good training out of it.
On the Falcons displays, it's a little bit different than a normal skydive. If some people are skydiving in the civilian world, the general rule of thumb is that when the skydive is finished, everybody tracks away into their own airspace and pulls their parachute in nice clean air away from everybody else, away from the danger. The Falcons are a little bit different. We need to be close to each other when we deploy our parachutes, so therefore we're all coming towards each other. We have to be in the right place at the right time, and that's why the wind tunnel is such a great tool, because it teaches us the free fall skills that we need in order to be in the right place at the right time safely.
But there's one final complicated manoeuvre to practice, the Falcons' good luck handshake. Some superstitious members insist on completing it before every jump.
Now the handshake takes longer than the safety checks itself, because each couple of guys has their own individual handshake, and you can only get that handshake through some kind of experience you've had in the past, and it just creates itself. But it is a sight to behold, let's put it like that.
Next, 99 Squadron take to the skies at an air show.
Personally for me, it's a lot of pressure to make sure that we don't mess up the timings.
A very special anniversary celebration.
Just staring out the windshield at the aircraft in front of them, looking for any sort of relative motion.
And the Red Arrows come to town.
As a job, that's your office, flying one of them. Impressive.
It's the weekend of the Royal International Air Tattoo, or RIAT, the world's biggest military air show at RAF Fairford. Military air shows are hugely popular with the public. RIAT costs around £5 million to stage, which is funded by ticket sales and outside sponsors. Any profits raised go to the RAF Charitable Trust, who'll fund anything from talking tins that allow families to send personal messages to someone on the front line, to welcome packs for wounded soldiers sent home with war injuries. Today, Brize Norton is playing its part with a unique flypast of 5 different aircraft from the base. One of which is the C-17 Globemaster, the RAF's biggest and fastest long-range cargo aircraft. 99 Squadron at RAF Brize Norton is home to 8 of these monsters, which can haul up to 45 tons of freight at a time. Pilot Annabelle Bacon has been in the RAF for 6 years and will be flying the C-17 today. She's never been involved in this kind of display.
I was in the Officer Training Corps at university, and from there I thought about joining the military, and the Air Force was one of the options. And flying training was really hard, really hard, but got through it somehow, and 6 years later I'm still here.
As a female pilot, Annabelle is in a minority among her male colleagues. Only 3% of RAF pilots are women.
It is definitely a man's world, for sure. There's no two ways about it. In the 3 years I've been on the squadron, there's consistently been about 5 of us out of about 60 pilots.
Today, Annabelle's co-piloting the C-17. She'll be flight planning, assessing weather conditions, and taking controls at certain times during the flight.
You'd think that it'd be quite a mammoth beast to manoeuvre around the skies, but with all the electronics, it's very easy. You don't have to be a great big hefty bloke to be behind the controls.
First to take off is the RAF's newest acquisition, the Voyager, followed swiftly by Annabelle's C-17. A TriStar, a former passenger jet now used for air-to-air refuelling. A Hercules, the workhorse aircraft used to carry troops and freight. And finally, the soon-to-be-retired VC-10. With the RAF's constant focus on training, Annabelle sees this flypast as the opportunity to expand her flying experience.
I volunteered for the RIAT flypast because it's completely different. Every other squadron, for their own reasons, and different aircraft types, got different ways of doing things. So I suppose it was quite interesting to see everybody come together.
Annabelle's pilot persona is all business.
There's definitely a blunt, harsh side to me when I'm in a flying seat, because you've got to be, I think, you've got to be in charge, you've got to be ready to be professional and do your job and actually be competent at what you're doing.
Down on the ground at the air show, despite the dismal weather, the aircraft enthusiasts are out in force. The 5 Brize Norton aircraft make their final approach. Today's flight requires precision positioning and timing.
We were horizontally displaced quite far, but actually vertically only 100 feet. So that is closer than air traffic would control you to. So essentially you have to make sure that everybody is visual with each other, because a big aircraft flying through the air will mess up the airflow behind it.
It costs around £5.5 million to fully train an RAF pilot. And it's at events like this where the public get to see the results.
With all the paying public on the ground at RIAT, you do feel a extra sense of responsibility to make sure you get it right. Yeah, it was pretty good experience, and one I hope to be repeated, but they don't come around too often. It was really good to have the opportunity to get involved today.
Events like RIAT are an important annual fixture. But every so often, Brize Norton is required to up the ante and participate in a celebration of historic proportions. 24 Squadron has use of a 32-strong fleet of Hercules aircraft, which specialise in airdropping troops and supplies to the front lines around the world, particularly in Afghanistan. Today, 2 of these aircraft will be showing their stuff in a special tri-service flypast to celebrate the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. This aircraft can reach speeds of 390 miles per hour, carry 20 tons of kit, and today will fly in daringly close formation. American pilot Justin Tubiolo is at Brize Norton on an exchange program with the US Air Force, and is about to get a very British flying experience he'll never forget.
While everybody else goes to their specific meeting points, ours is going to be down by the Isle of Wight today.
Justin normally pilots combat training flights, but today it's about putting on a spectacular show by flying in the middle of the pack, right on the tail of another Hercules. They'll be following a team of 20 Tucano aircraft who'll spell out the number 60 in the sky. At Windsor Castle, the Queen and an expectant crowd are gathered for this unique ceremony. Nearly 2,500 military personnel parade in front of the Queen, and in the skies the best of British military aircraft will pass overhead. First up is a medley of frontline helicopters from Apaches to Sea Kings and Chinooks, followed by the Lancaster Bomber and Supermarine Spitfires. With just minutes to go, pressure is on. Justin must now stay in close formation with the other Hercules until his part of the flypast is over.
When we cross Windsor Castle, we'll be 30 seconds behind the Tucano formation in front of us, with the VC-10 30 seconds behind us.
The pilots need to watch both their controls and the aircraft ahead of them.
Where's Tucano's gone? I've lost it. Yeah, all ahead of us, are they? It's for 1 minute.
1 minute.
First, the 20 Tucano aircraft spell out an impressive 60 over the castle in the sky. Finally, it's the moment Justin and his crew have been waiting for.
At that point, you're just staring out the windshield at the aircraft in front and looking for any sort of relative motion so they can stay perfectly in position as we cross Windsor Castle. Being able to fly in the Diamond Jubilee flypast was definitely a once-in-a-lifetime experience. My folks and friends at home were really excited when they knew I was a part of it. Yeah, that was definitely one of the proudest moments I've had flying this aircraft.
With a successful performance under his belt, Justin heads back to Brize Norton to make way for the remaining flypast. A rare E2R formation of 27 RAF and Navy Hawks. And finally, those perennial airshow favourites, the legendary Red Arrows. The Red Arrows were created in 1964 as the first team to represent the RAF as a whole. Pilots performing these spectacular aerobatics have had to prove themselves on operational tours in fast jets. And it's no surprise they're icons to many other RAF personnel. Today, the Red Arrows are making an impromptu pit stop at Brize Norton, much to the delight of one-man welcoming party and major fan, Movement Operations Officer Owen Newman.
The unplanned drops do happen now and again, so you're always intrigued as to why they're coming in, but you can't just, you can never, oh, there's the Red Arrows, and then close the door. You can't do that. You've got to be nosy and what are they coming for and go and speak to them.
They've diverted. What was the reason? What did you divert in for this morning?
It wasn't necessarily a diversion. All it was, we didn't have enough fuel to go into the Vulcan flight pass, which opened up Farnborough.
Right.
To get back to our home base.
Right.
Because the weather is a lot worse than it is here.
Bit unusual, unexpected. We used to all the wide-bodied aircraft, but it's nice when the Red Arrows do come in. Just a bit of a change.
The Red Arrows fly Hawks, a fighter jet training aircraft and a gymnast in the sky.
You never get bored of seeing the Red Arrows. You always admire them and you always look up and think, I'd love to be up there. I'd love to be flying in them aircraft.
Best job in the world really, and it's fairly exciting. We've just done a fly past with the Vulcan, which is a bit more varied than sort of life on the front line, so it's, yeah, it's great.
As a job, that's your office, flying one of them. impressive.
The Red Arrows are purely a display team, performing at about 80 shows each year. While their prowess is undisputed, as the military undergoes severe cuts, there's a debate about their role, publicised in the Air Force at a price tag of almost £9 million a year.
There've been talks in the past about cuts and defence cuts and, you know, where would they look at cutting? And all too often they come up with the Red Arrows, maybe they should cut. But my personal opinion, I think public opinion would be, you can't get rid of them. It's not just a fancy show for everybody to look at. They stand for the professionalism of the Air Force. They stand for perfection. They stand for what we do.
Quick sip of gas, quick coffee, and then off again now. They're moving on to Farnborough now, to the Farnborough Air Show to do a flight past with the Vulcan.
It is quite a sight. You've got 9 aircraft, all exactly the same, all in formation. They land in formation, they take off in formation, and they taxi, all in a big line.
The Red Arrows go to impress expectant crowds at their next display. Next, the Falcons travel to Blackpool for a daring jump.
They're not going to miss it because it's huge, but it is definitely a hazard that they need to be aware of. Oh, it's going now.
Today, the RAF Falcons parachute display team are set to open the Blackpool Air Show. While the parachute jumpers are flying up from Brize Norton, the drop zone team, headed up by John Connor, are already here in town.
We're in Blackpool.
I'm in Blackpool. The Las Vegas of the Northwest.
Blackpool greets them with some typically British weather, but despite a soggy summer so far, John is feeling positive.
This is probably just a
shower.
Just a light shower, will be fine. We've still got 2.5 hours to go.
The team will be landing on Blackpool Beach between the South and Central Piers. Even though they do over 100 displays each summer, this is a special one.
It's a great show for us today. We're expecting quite a few thousand people up there on the promenade, and it's just a great location. The only major obstacle that we have is right behind you, which is Blackpool Tower, and that is right in the middle of their landing pattern. They're not going to miss it because it's huge, but it is definitely a hazard that they need to be aware of. The only thing I'm concerned about is the weather a little bit. The clouds coming in and it's raining hard.
The Falcons are supposed to be opening the air show, but unless it stops raining, that isn't going to happen.
We're miserable. Very, very miserable.
Very miserable.
On the ground, John's got a disappointed public, and in the air, a disappointed crew.
The adrenaline's running up, the guys in the aircraft, they've flown around, they probably opened the door a few times. They're all pumped up, ready to jump, and then all of a sudden that just disappears. It's a really difficult thing to do, and 9 times out of 10 they just land and have to deal with it.
But as the start time approaches, the sun finally decides to make an appearance. Despite the sunshine, 3 hours of heavy rain has played havoc with the designated drop zone, and Chief Kitman Jamie Crew isn't happy.
I'd say it's still wet through. The ground's too wet, and it's all rainwater and seawater, which is, as you know, salt water, and it contaminates our canopies and degrades the material. So unfortunately, I'm going to say it's too wet. The ground's too wet for us to jump on it.
This is bad news for the jump crew's aircraft, circling right above them.
Mate, it's scrubbed.
Jen?
Yeah, Jen, sorry mate. We've had about 3 or 4 hours of really hard rain.
It's stopped raining now, but the DZ is absolutely soaking, mate.
You can't land on it.
Go down.
Sorry guys. It's a horrible feeling when you've built yourself up for this show and then it's been cancelled. And behind the scenes, to organise a show, there's a lot of work that goes into it. So not only is it bad for the public, we feel we've let them down, but we've put a lot of man hours into organising it. And not to do it is really disappointing atmosphere amongst the team.
So the Blackpool Air Show opens with aircraft, not parachutists. But John isn't giving up too easily. He's got a plan.
If we rejig our display time till the end, it gives us another 2 or 3 hours of drying time for the drop zone. We've had a word with the display organisers and they said, what a great idea. So it's now back on.
So with the jump finally given the go-ahead, the team set up the drop zone on the considerably drier beach.
The lads have worked really hard to get the DZ set up. There are now thousands of people ready to watch, so fingers crossed we should be all right. What a day.
And with the wind now picking up, timing the jump is crucial.
Yeah, mate, I don't know what the situation is with air traffic, but we've got 8 minutes left for the jump, so you're clear live whenever you're ready.
Yeah, the boys are happy and so is ATC, so we're just positioning now. I'll call when running for that last drop.
Thanks, mate. Heart rate's going now.
Once they leave the aircraft, the Falcons are free-falling at around 125 miles per hour before deploying their parachutes.
The feeling when you jump out, particularly for the first few times, it doesn't really compare to anything else that you'll do. The adrenaline and just the pure, it's not even a word, mind-blowingness of it.
The ideal distance between each Falcon in formation is 15 feet. Any further apart looks untidy. Any closer, petrol from the smoke flares could burn a hole in the parachute below. There's no room for error. These jumps are just as much about training as they are about display.
It's challenging. Do I ever feel scared? Yeah. When you're looking down at 12,000 feet of clean air, yeah, there's definitely times where you get nervous.
One of the things about our display is unique. It's a non-contact canopy stack, a vertical canopy stack, and the guys will use their steering toggles to change the angle of the canopy. So they're constantly working to keep on top of the canopy below them. From the untrained eye, it looks like it's really smooth, dead easy to do. It's very, very complicated. And the guys are knackered when they get on the ground.
The landing is the most challenging part, with the team touching down no further than 5 metres from the target, all within 30 seconds of each other. Then they race to salute the crowd.
The Falcon salute is important in a number of ways. We are a military parachute team, so when we get on the ground, it shows that we're in the military. We do some drill.
Nice one, scary one. That tower's big.
Yeah, really good. Yeah, glad we got out. It was nerve-wracking but good.
And while today's drop zone is a soft seaside beach, the ultimate goal is preparation for landing in far more dangerous locations out on the front line.
It was very, very stressful to start with, but we got it in. Everyone's happy. We're now going to go and have a beer and enjoy the evening.
Next, 101 Squadron paid tribute to a much-loved aircraft.
Everybody wishes their hands were on the control at this point. It is an adrenaline rush. There's no other way of putting it.
And the Falcons make a jump right over their home base.
Being able to perform in front of the kids and in front of the family and everything, it sort of gives something back to them.
It's a big day at Brize Norton as the members of 101 Squadron are paying tribute to a long-serving stalwart who's nearing retirement. But they're not honouring a person. Today is a celebration of the 50-year history of the VC-10, an aircraft that holds a special place in the hearts of 101 aircrew. In a tribute to the aircraft, 3 of 101's VC-10s will take off in formation and fly past various RAF bases as a farewell salute, before returning for an emotional fly past at Brize Norton.
We've got about just under 50 minutes until we'll be airborne.
The team in air traffic control are used to dealing with pretty much anything, but 3 VC-10s taking off at 30-second intervals doesn't happen every day.
It's quite unusual for us here to get 3 aircraft airborne as a formation, just the nature of the sorties that we normally do here. They tend to go by themselves, go out en route to operational theatre or something like that.
the VC-10 is loved for its recognisable design, with the tall tail fin the size of a Spitfire.
A VC-10 was originally built as an airliner by Vickers, and the Air Force decided at the time to take a number of them into service in a transport role initially, and then became a mixed fleet of transport and air-to-air refuelers. They are now all capable of doing both roles. She was a British design and British build, which in this day and age makes her quite a rarity really for an aircraft.
It is a manually operated aircraft. Modern aircraft are very much computerised, and you're effectively flying a computer, whereas this is the sort of generation of aircraft where it involved actual proper flying. We've got 4 guys on the flight deck because there's stuff to do for 4 people. It's a very rewarding aircraft to fly, and particularly the role that we do in the air-to-air refuelling side of things, then that role is particularly rewarding. So coupled with an aircraft that's rewarding to fly, it's a great job to have.
The VC-10 refuels fast jet aircraft through hoses on the wings. They transfer fuel at speeds of up to 1,000 kilograms per minute. The VC-10 doesn't just refuel fast jets, it can deal with most aircraft. And on this occasion, they've decided to rehearse one VC-10 refueling another. Unfortunately, things don't go to plan, with the fuel hose failing to make contact on the first go.
Looked good. It was looking promising. I couldn't tell from this angle though, really.
Though second time around, the connection is made. And once the refueling is over, the VC-10s can continue their historic flypast. This tribute flight is also tinged with sadness. Over the next year, the VC-10 is due to be totally decommissioned out of the RAF.
The aircraft's been in service for the RAF for 46 years, so it's probably one of the defence procurement projects which has actually worked well. It's been involved in numerous operations, it's involved with training in the UK, so it's an aircraft that the Air Force has used a lot and certainly got its money's worth out of it.
It will be replaced by the Voyager, which doesn't require total manual operation of the controls.
On a modern aircraft, you'd have a computer doing all that monitoring for you. We have a person doing it. Now that has its benefits because that's an extra person on the flight deck who can contribute to anything which might happen, but also it has its downsides in that that's an extra person you need to have and pay to keep the aircraft flying.
With the military austerity measures, the RAF will be losing at least 5,000 jobs. These cuts will shrink the RAF and bring down the number of fighter aircraft to 200, a level not seen since World War I. After a sweep of bases around the country, the 3 VC-10s return to Brize for their last flypast. One member of air traffic control in particular is eagerly awaiting their arrival. Flight Lieutenant Everard Robinson used to fly VC-10s, but his memories of them go further than that.
As a kid, I'm from Belize, and as a kid, the VC-10 used to go into Belize on a weekly basis, so I had a lot of sight of it. It's got a special part of me, and I feel attached to it.
She's kind of featured in quite a lot of people's lives and hearts. They were used by a variety of companies and countries really for going out to a lot of the old empire routes, so designed to be great in areas like Africa, the Far East and things. So she was really the backbone at that point of a lot of the travel to the kind of far-flung edges of the world.
31012, and it gives me 1,250 feet.
This is what it's all about. VC-10 being the fastest commercial jetliner in service at the moment. Before that there was the Concorde. Prior to Concorde it was VC-10, post-Concorde VC-10 again. So again, that's just a little bit of trivia for you. They're not allowed to fly them at max speeds anymore. They're actually still a very slippery airplane in pilot speed. Everybody wishes their hands were on the control at this point because it is an adrenaline rush. There's no other way of putting it. It's hard to put into describe in one single word, but I'm just glad I was here to see it. Yeah.
Staff at RAF Brize Norton see their fair share of exciting aircraft action around the base. It's also not unusual to see the Falcons conducting training jumps around the town of Carterton, right next to the base, which provide an unofficial show for friends and families.
A few family members come to have a look. Kids are running around. There's one of them there, John. Yeah, my little boy's here. He's 5, and my wife's here as well. We spend probably nearly 3 months of the year outside the country training. Then when we come back, the season runs from the beginning of May all the way through to the end of September. That's every weekend. You know, we're really grateful for our wives and girlfriends and families to support us in what we do. What are you looking forward to the most about the guys jumping in?
He got shy.
4 o'clock's a good time for us. All the kids are out of school and nursery, and it's kind of on the way home for everybody, so they've stopped off to have a little look.
Families are here. It's like a bit of a personal one, isn't it? Doing it for your family rather than thousands of people, thousands of spectators. It's a nice, relaxed atmosphere at the minute.
This is live. The kids love to see their dads jumping out of the plane. But obviously the ones further afield, it's just not practical. But where possible, they do come and support us.
The children are very proud to see the dad. Edie's a lot older, she's 6 years old, so she understands a lot more. And Oscar just thinks it's hilarious to see his daddy jump out of the sky.
And it's really nice for the team to land and all the wives down on the ground with the children watching it. It's a good feeling.
I don't think he really understands it, to be honest. But yeah, it's nice to do one where they can see, and so he understands a little bit of where Daddy is when he's not there for tea.
Do you? You can one day, mate, when you're older.
We spend quite a lot of time away. So being able to perform in front of the kids and in front of the family and everything, it sort of gives something back to them. So. See you later, mate.
Don't say we're not good to you on Sky 1 HD. Season 4 of Hawaii Five-0 kicks off right here on the 19th of January at 9 with a dangerous kidnapping that puts everyone to the test. And that's followed at 10 by the new season of NCIS Los Angeles, where time's of the essence as the team rescues Sam and Deeks, not to mention the missing missiles.